Welcome to the Pool Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Greg Villafania, joined by my co-host, Justin the Bearded Plumber Bowie.
Thank you.
And today, we've got a very special guest. We're in Texas. We're in Austin, Texas, actually. And we've invited Sarah Teveldal.
That's right.
Boom,
Got it.
nailed it. Got it. Yeah, so thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So we're here in Justin's hotel room. We're at the Commodore Perry Estate. This is an unreal property. And this is where we're doing the podcast because their marketing team is not super cool with us just kind of being out and about, poolside doing the recording. But this looks pretty legit to me.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love this place. It's like we're in a different world.
Yeah.
Like in Italy or something.
It does feel like Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never been to any place like this before. And we got in yesterday. So we met with Thurman and Torrance, the guys from Tank Proof and the Bros Fresh.
Yes.
And this is the first time we met them in person and way cooler, man.
Those guys are awesome.
Dude, they're so
Super
solid.
cool.
Yeah.
Have you seen them on stage?
Not live. Seen some,
Oh,
reels and different things like that, but haven't seen anything.
They bring
live.
so much energy to the stage.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those groups that you definitely want to see live because it's just like a whole experience.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could just, being in the presence of them and their energy. I bet the kids love being around them, and I'm sure they put on a hell of a show.
Sure.
How many shows have you been to?
Two.
Two?
Yep. And they're smaller venues, so
Cool.
yeah, it's just nice to be like up close and personal, and they're very interactive with their audience and just have a really cool vibe. Yeah.
They're cool dudes,
About halfway
man.
through, they took their shirts off
Sick.
and they're just like so into it. They're like sweating and
Rock stars, man.
Yeah.
That's what rock stars do.
absolutely. And I love what they do for the swimming lesson community and for their nonprofit. So they're doing big things.
Yeah, we love it. So we've been doing this podcast since 2017. We have never had an underwater photographer on the show. And that's exactly what you do. And we're going to jump all into that. But it's something that we've always wanted somebody on the show to talk about this kind of thing because it's so weird, even with all the different GoPros and, underwater cameras and different things like that. You still don't see like a ton of content unless obviously it's your Instagram, but you don't see a ton of content online. And it's something very like artistic about photos that are taken underwater. I know Playboy has like a dedicated photographer for doing stuff just like that. And those images are unreal, and the stuff that you do, it's different. It just has that, different look to it. So really excited to finally have an underwater photographer on and talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Jazz.
So let's jump into it. Tell us a little bit
Sure.
about you and kind of transitioning into FlashPool.
Yeah, so FlashPool Productions focuses on just underwater photography and video. The bread and butter of my business is working with swim teams and swim schools around the country. So I offer underwater photo days where parents can sign their kids up for a quick 5 to 7 minute session. In that time, I take a ton of photos of them. If I'm working with a swim team, their action shots, going through their different strokes, do some fun ones, some pose shots, and then swim schools, everything from 6-month-old babies to 10-year-olds tends to be a younger age group. And just getting those underwater portraits, which is really cool for not only the parents, but also the swim school to kind of show off what they do. And it's a win-win. The swim schools then get to use the photos for their marketing purposes. So yeah, it's kind of like I said, a win-win for both of us. But I also have an underwater photo booth concept for pool parties. So I work with a lot of country clubs that like to do like big scale pool parties here in Austin, to like private pool parties where same idea as like an above water photo booth, but it's underwater. So I sink a backdrop and then have all the fun props where kids and even adults too love to go down and take pictures.
When Greg told me about, obviously he found you and did all of the getting everything put together. When he told me about that, I thought that was so cool.
Thanks.
And then I saw some of the pictures. I was like, dude, that's rad. Because I was thinking underwater, like you're in a swimsuit, but they're like fully clothed, right? It's like literally, well, some of them anyway, were like a full underwater scene.
Yeah. Well, for the pool parties, I mean, most people are in their swimsuits, but I do have like some fun shirts they can put on and stuff, and
Yeah.
glasses and hats and all the things. And
Yeah.
some kids like layer on like 20 things. And
I saw one that was like a living room setup. It had like a lamp and everything, right?
oh yeah,
That was cool.
yeah. That was a private shoot. We did I think I sent you guys that. It was for a Christmas card.
That's
A
so
family
cool.
does. This family is really creative, and they do kind of a wild Christmas card every year. And this year they wanted to just do a living room set underwater.
That's so cool.
And so they're in like their Christmas outfits and whatnot. So that was really fun. And they had their dogs involved too. We had to Photoshop them in later, but I shot them like swimming above, two of them, and then just Photoshopped them in later, but you can't really tell.
So cool.
Yeah. So aside from those things, I also offer more like private underwater sessions for probably the most popular is underwater maternity. So a lot of pregnant mothers come to me for an underwater maternity shoot, which is really special. And I work with kids. I offer underwater dog sessions and mermaid makeovers. I work with a company here in town called Sirenalia, and we've done mermaid retreats in the past, like in Belize. And now locally we do like mermaid makeovers where they bring their silicone tails and tops, and we make over the client and then teach them how to swim and get good photos underwater. So.
Oh, I see. So you like take somebody who's not a professional mermaid, dress them all up, set them up, and then photo shoot.
Yeah.
It. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
super
It's really popular. And then lastly, I offer commercial services. So I've done shoots for pool builders, swimwear companies. I've worked with BarkBox doing underwater dog shoots for their toy products that they ship out.
Nice.
So a lot of cool stuff there.
That's awesome.
So how did you get into underwater photography? I mean, you don't really do it like in the ocean or anything like that, specifically swimming pools, right?
Yeah, I primarily work in swimming pools. I love working in natural water when I can. It is a lot more challenging. It presents a much different backdrop, obviously. My partner and I are big scuba divers, so if we're going on vacation somewhere, it's usually based on where we can scuba dive, and sometimes I'll line up work alongside that. But I got into underwater photography 14 years ago now. Kind of long story short, I grew up in South Dakota, was going to school in Fargo, North Dakota, and basically once I graduated from college with a graphic design degree, graphic design is my background, I kind of decided to just get the hell out of the Midwest, and I moved as far away as possible and moved to New Zealand for a year.
What?
Yeah. I didn't really know anything about New Zealand, but I knew I wanted to go somewhere where I could have a work visa, earn some money while I was there. I had, through college, been waiting tables, bartending. And so, yeah, I picked New Zealand because they had a work visa program, and got there without a job or even a place to live, lined up both within the first week, working at an Irish pub. And then I moved in with a roommate situation with a guy from New Zealand and a Romanian girl, and he was an amazing photographer. He focused primarily on like portraits and weddings, but his assistant, Sarah Lee, she was from England and she was living there, and she was his editor. And so I actually ended up working off part of my rent doing graphic design for him.
Cool.
And working alongside her. And she had started her own business there doing underwater photography. So that was my first introduction to underwater photography. I'd actually never even considered it as a thing before. I don't know if I'd even ever really seen many images. But she invited me to one of her shoots at a swim school there. And it was a babies class. And it's probably like 10 mothers and their babies, 6 months to a year old. And they took turns submerging in front of the camera. And I was blown away because growing up in South Dakota, like I'd never seen anything like that. These babies would open their eyes and smile, and they didn't have the reflexes yet to like that was very natural for them still. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then I ended up in Australia after that. I wanted to spend a year there. And a month into my stay there, it was February. I was living basically on the beach or beachside in Surfer's Paradise. And that was in 2008 when the economy crashed here. And all of a sudden, I couldn't afford to be there anymore because I was earning Australian money, but sending it back to the States for expenses I still had. So within a week, I was like, I need to go back to the States, but I'm not going back to South Dakota in February. So I called up my old roommate who had moved here to Austin, and she had moved here for a job. And I said, hey, Brittany, like, can I come crash with you for the winter until I figure out what I want to do next? And a week later, I was sleeping on her floor on a little mattress and took up a job at a country club. And that was like real easy money. One day I was just sitting there. It was very slow paced. And I was either basically bored out of my mind trying to figure out what I wanted to do next with my life. And I was thinking, you know, I don't want a corporate job where I'm going and sitting at a desk doing graphic design. I've been doing some freelancing and whatnot, but I still wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. And I wanted to work for myself because I always had that flexibility working in the restaurant industry. And then one day, I was just sitting there bored and I was like, maybe I could do underwater photography. And I'd only been in Austin for a few months at that time. And I got really excited and I was like, well, I'm going to do some market research and figure out, is this possible? And I realized nobody here was doing it. Nobody in Texas was even really doing it. There's so many swim teams and swim schools. Everybody here has a pool. It's warm year round, pretty much. And at that time, my grandfather had passed away recently and left me $10,000. And I was 22. So I was kind of living a little bit paycheck to paycheck, didn't really have a savings. And I spent all of that money on gear and just never looked back. I was like, I'm going to do this. And literally like just dived in, you know.
Awesome.
So
you'd be proud. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think most people 22 would just go blow that on, you know, they probably can't even remember what they blew it on.
I think about it often when I do shoes because I'm like so passionate about what I do, and I always think about that and how I got started that way. So, and then I took my time from there. I still worked part-time in the restaurant industry for probably the next 8 years while I built up my portfolio, and I knew I wanted to do whatever I could underwater. So that's why I developed all these different services through my business. So it went full-time probably like 6 years ago.
What was the first thing you did? Did you reach out to swim schools, or what was your first play?
Yeah, good question. Swim schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I practiced a little bit, and then I just kind of dove right in. Emler Swim School was the first school I worked with. They're based here in Austin, and now they have schools all over the U.S. and are growing like crazy. And I just remember like sitting outside of Emler sitting on the sidewalk and like almost like passing out because I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to run a business. And luckily, the general manager at the time was just so sweet and just gave me the chance to like come in and try that out. And from there, I just developed a system over time that would work and be efficient and work well for me, the parents, and the swim schools. So I've been doing that for a long time now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Was there is there somebody that like inspired you? I mean, I feel like swimming pools are so specific. I mean, was it just being submerged in the water? And because that's not like normal. I mean, you have to get housing for your cameras, and we're going to jump into some of the stuff that you need, but that's just a completely, you know, different experience. You don't get to just bring like a little bag or just throw your camera in the passenger seat. And that's what I normally do.
I'll admit, like I was way in over my head. I had taken one photography class, a film class in college. Other than that, I didn't really even have an interest in photography, but it was the underwater part of it that was fascinating to me. And I've always just liked things that were out of the box and challenging, and things that just maybe are a little riskier. So I just found it really exciting. Zena Holloway was one of the first underwater photographers that I really was inspired by. She's from the UK, and that's who my friend Sarah had worked under for a little bit. And then over time, just started following other underwater photographers. Mallory Morrison is a big inspiration. Brett Stanley, he's out of California. He has a studio pool out there and does a lot of really awesome work. And yeah, since then, the community has really grown. It's definitely a niche. Most underwater photographers, I would say, probably work in the oceans, photographing wildlife. So I imagine if you talk to anyone selling underwater, like housing gear, that's probably their primary customer.
Who is it that does all the dog shoots underwater where like the dogs are going
Yeah,
after
that's Seth Castile.
Okay.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Those are
He
pretty
started
cool.
doing like underwater babies too in the last few years as well. So
That's cool.
I don't know if he does a lot of that anymore or not, but he got big really fast. And there again, yeah, like people are so not used to seeing dogs underwater. Like it's not a very common perspective. And so
Yeah.
it's just cool, like seeing their mouths wide open.
They're all
and,
excited.
yeah,
You've seen those,
paws
right?
going everywhere.
Yeah, those are super cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with any pool builders here in Austin in terms of like they want photos of like the interior finish or the steps or
Yeah.
you put so much work into this swimming pool, it gets filled with water, you don't
Right.
really see images of it.
Yeah, the first pool builder I worked with was Jan Sotelo. He's with Modern Design and Build here in Austin. Their company does luxury pool builds, and he reached out to me, it's probably about 10 years ago now, and said, hey, I'm about to finish up this $1 million residential pool in Barton Creek here in Austin. And Barton Creek it's on a golf course and has luxury homes. And the pool itself was $1 million pool. They imported lava rock from Bali. I don't remember, it might have been like 14 foot deep on the deep end and had like an automatic cover, a submerged like hot tub that was like,
Below the water.
yeah. And it was just really, really beautiful. So he's like, I want to do a shoot in this before it's done and the owner moves in, because the owner wasn't living in the house at the time. And so him and his wife, we did a shoot with him and his wife. He wore a tuxedo for a lot of the shoot. I had him down there like on his cell phone, came up with some cool concepts where he's like carrying like a briefcase and plans. And
I saw those ones on your website. Those are super cool.
They still use them on their website and they're still relevant, which is really cool.
That's cool.
We did one above water where he climbed up on a ladder in the pool and then fell off sideways. And we had to do this a few times to where he was like horizontal with the pool, like got him right before he hit the water, like
Cool.
horizontal with it, but he's like laid out like this
That's
in his
awesome.
tuxedo. So that was really fun.
That's
But
cool.
Put some work into that.
sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's talk about the gear a little bit. I mean, what kind of gear do you need to be able to pull off these photo shoots?
My housing is from CNC. I've used that. I've been through 2 rigs now. Can't really afford to upgrade very often because once you have your camera system, the housing is very specific to that camera, specific to all the buttons. So it only works for that camera. Excuse me. And so they have aluminum alloy housings, so they're super heavy duty. They're probably the more expensive housings on the market, but I knew if I'm going to do this and build a business out of it, I want like the best of the best. I wasn't quite sure even where to buy or what to buy when I got into it 14 years ago, but I reached out to, there was only a couple distributors in the US, and I reached out to one out in California, and one of the guys that worked there had shot for Nat Geo. And I was like, I can trust this guy. So I just called him up. I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, can you tell me what to buy? I didn't even know what camera system I wanted. And he sent me an inventory list that totaled up to about 10 grand. And I was like, okay, great, purchase.
Nice.
And just trusted him. And so I shoot with the Canon 5D Mark IV now. I had upgraded from the 5D Mark II, skipped the 3, went to the 4, and it's a great camera system. I love it.
Yeah. And what do you use to stabilize the camera once it's in the housing, like in the pool? Because that's got to be difficult, right? There's like an incline in the pool, or I'm sure, you know, you built a custom pool for this kind of stuff, but like, how do you stabilize the camera to what you're shooting? Are you always holding it?
I'm always holding it. I've never actually used like a tripod underwater. I could if I wanted to or needed to for a certain type of shoot, but it stays pretty stable. I do weight myself. I use a weight belt, which helps keep me grounded. And otherwise, I'm just using the appropriate settings because I'm always in motion a little bit. My subject's always going to be in motion. So shooting like with a shutter speed above 250 or above is ideal. If anything, I sacrifice ISO, but also shooting like 5.6 or higher for the aperture because any lower than that, and it's focusing on like particles in the water and whatnot. So,
can you risk that ISO? Because, you know, people taking photos, that's like the last thing you want to adjust, and keeping the ISO as low as possible in like water because it's kind of like flowing and it could look a little bit grainy. Can you get away with having it bumped up?
Yeah, I think the camera systems now though are so good that like some of the ISO, you're not even gonna see it if you're unless you're blowing this picture up really big, you know. So even shooting, I think with the Mark IV, I don't even notice it until after like 1250 or 2000. I was in a cave in Mexico in like a cenote and shooting with some friends, and there was only like some overhead lights. It was really super dark, and it was either don't get the shot or like max out my ISO at 12,500, which is crazy high, and you do see the grain, but you don't focus on the grain when you see this like amazing shot that you get. So you just have to like kind of figure out like where do I want to make that sacrifice. But generally for the type of things that I'm shooting for, you don't notice that quite as much.
This is probably a stupid question, but I'm not a camera guy at all. What's ISO?
So there's kind of like I guess you'd call it like a triangle of settings on your camera. And, you know, if you're shooting outside, you want to keep your ISO around like 100 or 200. And it's usually like the fineness, the quality of the image. The more that you bump it up, the more noise the photo is going to have. Mm-hmm. So if you have it cranked up to 12,500 normally, like with one of these cameras, it is going to be very noisy, whereas it's going to be a lot more grain. So it's like it's trying to work with you in getting that photo pulled off, but usually you're kind of setting the ISO really low, and then you have like your aperture and shutter speed.
Is that the
so
triangle?
You kind of have to like take all those things into consideration.
Because everything affects everything. Like your aperture is like, you know, like right now our aperture is at like f3 or f4, and that's going to make everything kind of like blurry behind Sarah. But it's like you have to like adjust this, but you're also trying to get like the right lighting.
Kind of, you pick like what's the most important based on what you're shooting. So if I was going to shoot above water, if I'm above water, you're shooting a landscape, you want to be able to see like a lot of depth, or you might want to see a lot of depth. And in that case, you want a higher aperture, like 8.0 or above. Otherwise, you're only going to have like one thing in focus and everything else blurred.
That's why natural lighting is so good. And like, you know, the golden hour, you know, when you shoot outside is because that lighting is so good that you can just kind of keep everything in that sweet spot.
I love shooting at golden hour.
Yeah, everything is just crispy. ISO can stay low. You can have your shutter here. You can have your aperture set here. And it just, unfortunately, you know, when you work with some people or certain situations, like trying to take photos of plumbing and different things like that, sometimes, you know, you got to be out there.
The more like the better,
times.
for sure. But also like with post-production, there's so much technology. The technology is really good now. So there's noise reduction apps even. So you can make it appear less noisy in post as well. So there's just so much you can do now.
Science.
Science.
Technology.
I just point and shoot my Samsung S23 and
Dude, that's what's so crazy is these phones now. Justin's phone is seriously insane. Would you say that new feature, the zoom feature?
it's got 100 zoom on those phones now.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I haven't messed with it because you got to be up high, to look, but they have all this stuff online. It's crazy.
I actually love shooting with my iPhone underwater. I have a little like $45 case from Amazon. And I shoot a lot of like B-roll or
Content stuff.
yeah, just stuff that I can post right afterwards from my phone. And the lighting is the lighting is great. You can do like slow motion, and it's crisp, and I don't have to take it from my camera, put it on my computer, go into like an editing software and like mess with it. It's just like all done. And the phone is 4K, so it's great quality. And yeah, it is crazy.
Come a long way.
Do you have any, tips for, you got service companies, builders, things like that? Is there any tips, even stuff like on your phone or GoPro? I mean, any, I don't know, what are some good shots people could get of underwater swimming pools?
You don't need to go out and buy a big fancy rig like I have. Just like all the phone stuff we were talking about. There's lots of cases you can buy, ranging from like $20 to $200. And I would probably recommend something mid-range. Otherwise, you might be using that rice sooner than you want to. But GoPros are great. They've come a long ways. They take great quality photos and videos. They have a lot of attachments you can use. So they're very functional in that sense that you could attach it to, if you're like a pool tech and you want to show yourself like scooping something underwater, like you could just attach to the scooper, or little tripods that you can set up maybe on a shelf in the pool. I feel like you could get really creative with it.
Yeah. Do you have like recommendations for like settings, or actually I want to go back for a second. Is there a part of the pool, say you have like a basic sort of like rectangle pool, it's maybe a play pool where, it's deep in the middle and then shallow on the sides. Like what are some cool places to like kind of get, shots of the pool? Do you have any recommendations for that?
Like if you were like a pool builder or
just anybody that was trying to just be different and get some different photos.
Like a good angle or something, you mean?
Yeah, good angle.
I mean, just play around with it. You get all sorts of angles, right? If you want to shoot, if you stay towards the surface, for one thing, you're going to see a lot more reflections. So if you're shooting a subject underwater, I actually tend to encourage my subjects to stay closer to the surface. A lot of people want to go like down to the bottom. That feels like natural for them, I think. But it's about kind of like finding that neutral buoyancy. And if they're closer to the surface, you're going to get a lot more reflections. And I love the reflections on the surface of the water because it kind of just paints a picture for you. And you don't have control over that. And that's one of my favorite things about working underwater is just letting the water do the work. So yeah, if your camera is closer to the surface, you're going to get some cool reflections. As far as like depth, what's cool about working in the water is even in shallow water, it might look deeper than it actually is, especially in a pool where if it's round, it doesn't have like squared off corners. If it's rounded, it might appear a lot deeper. So don't let that limit you. I just did a shoot in a 3.5 foot pool, a commercial shoot. I showed up and I was like, oh, this is really shallow. I'd never intentionally done a shoot in that. Like I wouldn't have chosen a pool at that depth, but it actually worked out just fine. And it looks a lot deeper than it is. When you're working in a pool, you might want to consider like what's in the pool. What do you want to keep out of the shot? So drains, the skimmers, stuff like that. You want to get the pool vacuum out before you get in.
Unless you're a pool service guy or a pool guy.
Oh, yeah, good point. You're right. Then you want to feature those things.
Yeah, exactly.
I had an idea that like a pool service guy could attach a GoPro to the vacuum and just like let the vacuum go around and
That'd
do
be
its
cool.
thing. Or if you want it, if you're, you know, feeling really adventurous, you could like jump in with your camera and just do like an action shot. Maybe it's slow motion too. If you're doing something funny and it, you know, it's for social media, something like that. But you could do some before and afters. So set up a tripod and maybe do a time lapse where you're showing the process of cleaning it.
I'm
kinda
actually
speed up through
surprised.
that.
That's a really good idea. I'm surprised that we don't see that more of people, like a time lapse brushing the entire pool.
It would be
or-
cool to get it underwater. I've seen it
Yeah.
definitely like out of the water. That is a
But do
good
you want to
idea.
see like all the particles coming
Yeah.
off and the debris? And
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of thing, especially with video, is really popular on social media. People want to see processes. Like, how are you making this dish? Or how is this hair being cut? Like, people want to see it like
Yeah.
start to finish. And I feel like that would definitely translate to like cleaning a pool.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Those are really good ideas.
For a pool builder, I did this when we built our pool. I set up a designated spot, did a little like tape X where I had a tripod set up for my phone and then taped off a little area in the pool where I would stand. And so on the day that we filled the pool, I did like a picture of me standing in it empty with my gear. And then every like 2 hours went out there and took another picture until it was
That's
full. I haven't done the last shot yet where I'm actually fully submerged, but
That is so cool.
that's like, I'm really glad I thought of that. Just, I think it was like a week before we filled it. I'm like, oh, this could be really cool. Cause you can't go back. You can't like,
Unless you drain your pool. Or
yeah.
something.
So you plan ahead, I guess is the point I'm getting at.
That's cool. I want to see that.
Think about those things, you know, like like that's a fun thing to watch a pool fill up. Cause I feel like people have questions about that. Like how long does it take? And,
So I think that's a great idea for anybody building a pool, especially if the pool is like really special.
yeah.
And you want to like document something cool about it.
Sure.
And doing some different photos like that for sure. Yeah. So when are you going to do that last photo?
I don't know. I probably should do that soon.
Today.
I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, Justin, do you think that, you know, builders or subcontractors or anybody could benefit from underwater, you know, photos?
Well, I certainly think that there's a piece of that where if there was inspection work that needed to be done or like quality of work, documentation that needed to be done, like somebody who knew how to get underwater and like, you know, like we talked about, make all the right settings to get things perfect, that would be definitely useful.
Yeah.
Or I think
That
that,
reminds me, I was hired for a job once where a homeowner had their pool cracks after a service, and they hired me to come out and like document it.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was interesting.
I think it would also be cool. Sometimes there's details that are lost, you know, when they go underwater, like things that only the pool builder or the pool community might appreciate. Like, for example, like tile that laces on like Bajas and stuff. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Jimmy Reed, but like some of the stuff he does that gets covered up by water. It'd be really cool to get in and get some pictures of like some of those details. It'd be really cool.
Yeah. Those all tile pools would be, you know, killer. I mean, that's what I mean. There's so much work that goes into picking the right color, you know, for the interior and the tile and the deck and all these different things. I mean, we don't do anything like that with JMax, but, you know, if we're kind of in the business of, you know, sort of flow, it'd be really cool kind of getting those like flow shots, you know what I mean? Flow coming out of the returns and different things like that. When we were doing that video with that spa, you know what I mean? Like, you were kind of pointing out that when the water jumps up a certain way,
Oh, right,
it's-
right.
you know, it's not doing what it's supposed to, but, you know, having video or photo of how the water is coming out. It's like, here, there's, you know, two versions of this photo, the way that it's supposed to look and the way that, you know, the therapies,
Oh, there you go.
you know what I mean? So
All
I think
kinds
in
of-
everything that we do, besides maybe electricians, like there's like something for everybody.
Agreed.
With underwater photography.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you use
I
flash
didn't know that.
underwater?
Yeah, I
Can
use
you?
strobes
Strobes?
occasionally. They're attached to my rig though. But if I was to have lighting outside of the pool, like shooting down, you would have to run a cable. Or
That sounds sketchy.
I don't really do that. There's some photographers that specifically work with flashes or constant lighting. I recently bought a $2,000 light to kind of replicate the sun, so I can set it up. It's not an underwater light, but they use it for like movie sets and whatnot, and it can shine down into the water and kind of it's like as bright as the sun.
Nice.
So it creates these really cool rays through the water, and so I've used it like at night. It kind of looks like moonlight, or in an indoor setting where I'm limited and it looks like we're outdoors, like in the sun. Yeah.
Have you ever like added anything to the water to get an effect? Like, I don't know, like if you wanted to see the particulate, like to get the rays, or like glitter, or anything.
Oh God.
Like, I don't know, like something in the water.
Snow, like you're in a big
glitter
snow
is
globe.
banned at my house.
Is it?
Yeah.
That
You
might
will
be
never
cool.
get glitter out of a pool if you put that in.
Yeah, don't do it in your own pool.
I mean, typically I like to work with very clear water.
Okay.
That's
No dyes. I don't know, just thinking.
no. Let's see. I think there was a time I tried mixing dye with a substance. I don't even remember what, to show, like if you were pouring something, you can show it like pouring out.
Right.
So I guess you'd want a liquid that has a different weight than water.
Ah,
Might have to try that again. Yeah. Let me know
I was just trying
let me
to-
know how you want to see that. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea
shoot
of like
that.
drinking something and
Yeah. Sometimes I just
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
do stuff in post production.
yeah, it's probably easier.
like I did a shot with a cigar,
I saw that
a
one.
guy smoking a
It
cigar
looks like
once,
bubbles coming off the.
and I added the smoke in post.
Oh.
People are like, "Is that real?" I'm like, "No, it's not smoke underwater."
That's super
But
cool.
you can definitely mimic it. So yeah.
That's cool.
So tell us about the pool building process. I mean, you built a pool recently, and you were an owner builder.
How much do you want to know?
Who built it?
It was definitely a process. We did. We
Owner
built
build?
it.
Nice.
Yeah, we went through BYOP.
Okay.
Build your own pool. Originally, so going back a few years, we moved into a new build house, and in 2019, the fall of 2019, and we were getting ready to break ground on a pool. We had a pool builder, someone I had actually worked for in the past, shooting some stuff for them, and and right before we were about to break ground, COVID hit. And my partner got laid off because of COVID in his job. And so we put that on hold because nobody knew what was going to happen. We were like, is the world going to end?
Right.
And obviously, to be fiscally responsible, we waited until he got another job, which actually wasn't until almost a year later. So that was really a blessing in disguise, because during that time we had a lot of time to like rethink how we wanted to do the pool. Even though like I've been dreaming about having my own pool for 10 years, when it really got down to like focusing on what things we wanted out of it, that year was really like critical to deciding like, oh wait, like there's so much. I think I went to a pool show down in San Antonio, and just seeing like that there's so much like innovation out there now and new technology. And what we found in talking with builders is that a lot of builders just kind of stick with what they know, at least the ones that we talk to. And rightfully so. I mean, they have their own processes. Our builder that we were originally going to go with had been in the business for about 40 years and builds beautiful pools. But we felt like we weren't getting a lot of like presented with a lot of options, and we like options. My partner Matt is in software engineering. He runs teams of engineers, and so like our house is a smart home. Everything from the lights to the doorbell, and like if it can be automated, it's automated.
Nice.
So we realized that there was a lot more out there than what we were being presented with, and we had some challenges that we wanted to resolve too. My biggest one was I was just so tired of editing out pool tile after all these years. Every pool has pool tile, and that actually was the bulk of my editing. It could take up like half the time I spend on a photo is taking out this pool tile that is also reflected in the reflections. And so I was like, I do not want pool tile. Like, whatever I can do to get around that, we're going to do it. I don't care how much it costs. And so I think everybody was suggesting, well, you can do, I wanted a white pool to have like a blank canvas. They're like, well, you can do white pool tile. And I knew that I would still have to do some editing, maybe not as much, but when I went to the pool show, I discovered like eco finish could have been an option, but I don't know if that's just a newer thing. It was really hard to find information on it, and hard to find someone that was doing it in this area. And anyways, backing up a little bit, in 2021, when Matt finally did get a job, and we were like, okay, let's start this process again. The pool builder we were working with before was really busy and couldn't take on another project. And we also knew we wanted to kind of redesign this thing. So I reached out to Jan Sotelo, who I brought up earlier from Modern Design and Build. And I was like, I proposed a trade. I was like, let me take photos for you. And like, I want your insight on all these questions that we have. And he offered their top design package and said, let us design it for you, which is great. So their designer, Mike, he designed us a really beautiful pool where it had to be multifunctional in the sense that like it's going to be my studio, but we also love to host like friends and family. So like a multi-use space. And so we knew we wanted to have a hot tub. The hot tub is actually built into the pool and has an overflow. So that was a really cool design that we hadn't considered before. And it was modern and simple and really just perfect for what we wanted, especially being that like our house was brand new and modern looking to match the house. So they're really skilled at that, at building these luxury pools that match, you know, the environment that they're in.
Sure.
Anyways, we fell in love with that. Got a bid from them, got a bid from another builder, and all of a sudden we were looking at going from a $90,000 pool originally to a $240,000 pool or $190,000. And we were like, dang, what are we going to do? Yeah. And that's when we discovered BYOP and realized like, okay, we can cut out the middleman. And what's great too is we can oversee the project ourselves. And by that time we had done so much research on the things that we wanted. And Matt being engineering minded and me knowing like exactly what I needed, we were like, okay, we can take this on. And so BYOP, basically like they do have a design package they can offer. We already had it, but they took that, put it into their own design, and then they give you access to their list of trusted subs. Yeah. And so, so yeah, we started with them, and it's about a 9-month process. Some things got dragged out, but because of us, we got to the point where we kind of dragged our feet on like the eco finish part. You know, are we going to do that? Or then we discovered fiberglass as an option, which no one had presented to us. We had asked so many people, like, how do we get around this? And we even, I think Modern had suggested like a faux negative edge as a solution, and we're like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's very expensive, but nobody had suggested fiberglass. And so we obviously had to do a lot of research into that, trying to figure out like, is it worth the extra $7 or $8 grand that we spent on it? And then going from the, not the concrete, but the, what do you call it?
Shotcrete?
Shotcrete to like that. Like the in-between was tough because the shotcrete wasn't done in a way that the plaster guys were ready, like would have been able to apply it yet. And so figuring out that middle part. And I think what ended up happening is they ended up coming, I think the fiberglass guys came and like smoothed everything out
Really?
beforehand, but which was another expense. But the fiberglass is great. So we don't have the pool tile. It's a really soft finish. It's white. It's really sturdy. So like I don't have to worry about it cracking or like stains quite as much. The longevity from what we've researched is much longer than like plaster or aggregate. What do you guys know much about fiberglass?
I don't. I know that it was a big thing in the state that we live in for a long time, and they went away from it. But I don't know why, and I'm sure it's different
I know.
now.
I'm like, is there something out there that like we haven't been told that we're gonna be worried about?
Oh, it's poisonous. No.
I think it's all like preference. You don't see a lot of in Arizona and maybe Texas because they're associated with popping out of the ground when you take water out of them. You know?
She's saying though,
But that's
fiber as a
that's
finish.
a pre-bill,
Yeah.
right? So this is a finish. So they have sheets of fiberglass
Yeah.
that they well, I don't know if it's epoxy, but
Resin.
a resin. That
Oh, you're
they,
talking. Oh, yeah, eco finish.
No.
No.
Eco finish is different.
Eco-finish is different. That's like, I think, a plastic, and it's fired on. So these are sheets of fiberglass, like very thin, almost see-through. They put it on the shotcrete. I might be getting some steps wrong. I don't know. But do several layers, and then it is finished with a resin, which protects it. So
I'm not really
there
familiar
was
with
one
that.
company is Texas Fiberglass Pools
Yeah.
that was willing to do it, and it was even kind of hard to get them to do it because I think they only usually work in commercial. I might be saying that wrong. Maybe they are getting into more residential, but
You're probably one of the only people
to chase them down,
with fiberglass.
or just like it was hard to find someone that could do it, you know. So yeah, I might be one of the only ones. They took us to 2 residential pools that they had done. I think they do a lot of refinishes. I don't think they did a lot of like new build residential pools.
Gotcha.
And a lot of people don't have a need for that. They don't care if they have tile. So why would they choose something that's, up to 10 grand more?
Right.
But it definitely made sense for us.
That's cool.
So I love it. I love how it turned out. It's so beautiful. It's like, with it being white, like the water is this really nice, like turquoise blue, which is exactly what I wanted. And it's nice on the feet and skin, and it's not slippery. That was the one thing I was worried about. Is it going to be slippery or glossy? And then that shows up weird in the photos, but it's actually a really great solution for us. So
Pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe you should be a builder.
I don't know. That's an industry I want to get into.
Who did your plumbing, by the way? Do you remember?
Who did our plumbing?
Wasn't this somebody that you knew or something like
Yeah.
that?
Who was it? I'm blanking on.
Oh, Jose?
Yes, Jose.
Yeah,
Jose?
sounds
Oh,
familiar.
nice. That's right. You did tell me that. You knew.
AZ
Okay.
Pool Connections.
Oh, okay.
Those guys were awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, they bent over backwards for us and just went above and beyond. And yeah, I really liked working with them.
Nice.
And then River Hills Construction did the construction part of it. And
you had a poolside
we have a
tech?
poolside tech, which Matt had done all the research for that, and we love that. That's gonna obviously like save us money in the long run. I keep the pool heated. Well, not always, but I work year round. So if it's 60 degrees out, I'm gonna shoot in the pool, but I gotta heat it to like 90 for my clients to be comfortable, and me. Like I get cold really easily.
For sure.
And so yeah, just being able to like run that from an app is so nice. I think it also ties in with some other pool features. I think our lights are from PAL Lighting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which they, again, like they're more on the commercial side of things. But I wanted to like go all out with the lights and be able to use them at night. And so they're full spectrum LED lights. We did one at the like bottom of the pool so it can shoot up. Nice. I think they were really confused about that at first.
Oh, they were probably like, what is this lady doing?
And then around the entire perimeter of the pool, they notched out, River Hills notched out
For a perimeter light?
a perimeter light. Yeah. So it'll
Nice.
go up in there and then shine down.
Cool.
That we don't have that in yet. We're going to try to do that ourselves. But
Nice.
yeah, so at night it just looks so cool. You can put different lights on and
What depth did you do?
oh, yeah, good question. That was another thing that was really important and critical to me. We only have our backyard isn't huge. So the pool, I think, is maybe 14 feet across and gosh, I'm not remembering how long, but the depth profile was really important to me to be able to have enough shallow area to work in. And then you can have it, like for me, a certain depth would be too deep where like I want my clients to be able to, if they need to touch bottom, to like push off and come up
Right.
for like safety reasons, but also just at a certain point, the slope, it would just be too extreme.
Yeah.
So it's 8.5 feet on the deep end. So imagine maybe a tall 6-foot person with their hand above their head, considering like how much room do I have to get them like fully extended for a shot, or
Right.
a mermaid, right? A woman with a mermaid tail, or a man with a mermaid tail.
Yeah.
Mermen too. That adds an extra, like 3 feet sometimes. And so making sure that I can accommodate for those types of shoots. But then also a lot of my private shoots they take place in the shallow end, especially maternity, where people can touch and rest in between. And we're not like going back and forth, kicking back and forth from edge to edge and having to tread water.
Do they have do you have air when you're down there, or are you coming up for air and going down?
Yeah, that's actually the first question I get asked when I tell people I'm an underwater photographer. They're like, "Oh, so you do scuba dive?" Like, no, I do scuba dive, but I rarely use scuba equipment when I'm shooting because I need to be able to communicate with my subject.
Right.
And I'm also not down there that long. I'm working with people, and generally, like, I can hold my breath longer than a lot of people. I can't hold my breath for that long, but we don't need to be down there that long to get a good shot. We can go down for a couple seconds, get a couple shots, come up. I can give them feedback, show them a picture, be like, okay, let's do this now, and go down again, do another submersion. So it's not important to, like, I just hold my breath, just like my subjects do. But there are cases where I've been working in a really deep pool, or definitely when I'm working in the ocean, I want to be in scuba gear, so I'm not dying,
Yeah.
like kicking
That's
around
important.
and burning energy, because it's I wear little fins that help me get around, but
Nice.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
Very nice.
So, what's your favorite swimming pool destination?
I have a few bucket list swimming pools I would like to visit.
Oh, this is different. I like this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you meant like ones that I have visited, or
Let's do bucket list. Let's switch
bucket
things
list.
up.
Okay.
I wanna hear
So the London Sky Pool,
Yes.
10 stories in the air, all glass, and it's between two buildings. I don't know what pictures would look like if I was like photographing a person in there. Like, I don't know what you could see beyond that, but
Right.
I just love the idea of like being 10 stories up in a pool.
That's cool.
That would be
looking
pretty
down.
cool.
And Alex Proba is a mixed media artist. She does a lot of abstract art, and she has done at least 3 swimming pools that I know of where she's painted the surface of the pool in like a very abstract way, and it's very colorful. I think some of her projects are out by you guys. Maybe
Palm
in
Springs?
Palm Springs, yeah. It's one of them. Maybe one in Florida. I think they're residential pools.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I look at pools as like a canvas. So I would love to like do a shoot in one of her pools. And then I love collaboration too. So like it's featuring her work as well.
Yeah.
And then the third one is the deepest pool in the world, which is in Dubai. And it is,
It's like the big cylinder, right? It's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a cylinder?
I think so. If it's the one I'm thinking of. People keep building the
It
deepest
has like
pool.
different platforms.
Yeah.
There's like a
Yeah.
car sunken down. There's like different
Yeah.
scenes and stuff. It looks really dark, so it's not like a pretty pool, in my opinion, but definitely like a bucket list pool. And
So is that one for like recreational swimming or is it for divers?
it's for dive training. I
Dive training.
think.
Okay. It's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I feel
probably
like it's a cylinder.
they probably just built
ish.
it because they wanted to like it's Dubai. They want to have
Everything cool.
the biggest. And the
But I
best.
still think it's like a destination thing, right? I mean, you probably have to be scuba certified to be able to swim down there, but
I mean, probably.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's super deep.
Yeah. Isn't it like 200 feet
It's
deep or
like-
something like that?
It's 196 feet
Holy shit,
deep
4 feet.
that's insane.
and 6 Olympic swimming pools of water. Yeah, so
Talking bucket list pools, and you said that I would love to go in the NASA pool.
oh my gosh, yes,
That would be cool too.
Isn't it so
There-
cool that like all the training that they've done since like the 60s has been like underwater in that giant pool, like
I would do anything to shoot in that pool.
Yeah.
outer space.
Ken Kiefer, he's an underwater photographer in Houston who's really well known for his shark photos. He does a lot of diving photography with wildlife, and I think he's shot in that pool. And I'm like, how do I get to do that?
You know what we need to do? We're building a pool that has a shark tank attached to it, and the shark tank butts up. We need to get you hooked up with
What?
that owner
Okay.
because you could get photos in front of the
Heck
shark
yeah.
tank in the deep end.
Heck yeah.
How
That would
cool-
be sick.
That would be
Dude,
super.
that'd be
Okay,
Or
then will you do a photo shoot with me?
yeah, we would have to
Act like the shark is eating us.
That'd be so cool.
yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Do you guys scuba dive?
He does.
I'm not certified, but I run a BCD in a tank for underwater repairs.
Oh, okay.
So, no, I'm not certified.
I run a snorkel.
Gotta do it.
Snorkel.
Yeah.
I hate snorkeling.
PVC in my mouth.
I almost died snorkeling. I already told the story on the podcast, so I won't tell it again. But on my honeymoon, I almost died snorkeling. So
That's horrible.
yeah, it's terrible.
yeah,
Stick
that
to
story is
scuba
rough.
diving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's safer.
So for anybody interested in your services, pretty much anything like underwater swimming pool photography, you can handle that. Do you travel
I love
outside
to
of
travel.
Austin?
Yeah, definitely. I go all over the place. So I'm in Los Angeles a couple times a year to work. Mostly, like, when I'm traveling for work, it's with swim schools. So up in Ohio, it's just in Connecticut. It's just in Arizona. So love to travel. That's my other biggest passion. And I'm down to do anything that's water related. So
Nice.
It's awesome.
So where can people find you, reach out to you?
my website is flashpoolproductions.com. You can find me on Instagram, flashpool_productions, Facebook @flashpool. I don't really use Twitter very often, but yeah, all the socials.
Go to Instagram. She's on top of it on
Instagram.
Instagram.
I
Very
try.
consistent. Yeah.
Oh, you think so? Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Sometimes I'll
consistent.
like only post once a week and I feel like I'm failing, but
No, you do super good. But
thank you.
thank you so much
Appreciate
for being in this beautiful hotel room with us and sharing,
That's
your
awesome.
story. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. It's been great chatting with you guys, getting to know you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Welcome.